All right, well, why don't we get started, everyone? I'm going to take questions and answers at the end. So if you have questions as we go along, type them in that chat box. Don't type them in the Q&A box. It's easier to just watch on the chat box. So let's get started. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Joe Bavanese, licensed psychologist and director of a group practice in Southeastern Michigan, and also director of Uncommon Practices that helps private practitioners create their ideal practice. Mark Edison, yes, you are chopped liver. All right, and that'll go on the recording. All right, so what I'm going to do today, 5 issues we're going to talk about. Why am I doing this in the first place? Internet marketing success. Lead generation, how do we get people interested in our services, and then how do we convert them to an actual session? What are the, oh, Martin from Australia, cool. What are the trends? What are we, where do we see the ball going here in the future, 2017 and beyond? And lastly, my top 10, what to do and not to do for internet marketing success. Now, I'm going to talk about my experience, some of which is uncommon and contrarian to what you're going to hear a lot of marketers say, but I've tested out everything I possibly can. And so I'm going to just tell you my experience and what worked for me and how well it's worked for me. So let's get started. Let me get my slides here. All right, already got that going. All right, so why I'm doing this presentation, my top 2 professional loves are doing psychotherapy and playing with computers. And fortunately for me, I came along at the right time. I started my private practice just when the internet was starting to get going. And by kind of parlaying those 2 together and doing a lot of study on my own, I've been able to be really more successful than I thought I was. I actually created my first website a year before Google was even founded, which is really helpful because I was one of the first websites that got indexed in their database. So my self-study of internet marketing has enabled me to expand from a small solo practice to a group practice where we now have 25 therapists working in 3 different locations. And most importantly for this presentation, our practice has gotten at least 90 new clients every month, new intakes from internet sources every month for the past 5 years. What my goal is for everybody here is if you can just increase your internet referrals from something you learn in the next hour by 5 or 10, that's going to add thousands of dollars to your revenue for 2017. And so if you listen and apply what you learn, I'm pretty confident that will happen. There'll probably be something in here you're not doing, or you are doing that maybe you should stop doing as we go through this. And I will be posting the video, the audio, and the PDFs from the talk. So don't worry about writing down links or anything. You can just click on them a lot easier in the PDF. And you will get an email tomorrow, as long as you're registered for this, which obviously you are, you wouldn't be on this, with all that information and the links, and also some bonuses if you want to take advantage of figuring out how to keep up with this stuff that I do on your own. All right, so let me just give you a quick overview before I get into the heart of the talk. The average monthly intakes from my practice in 2016 was 142 a month. Started out at 8, and when the internet kind of came along, we had a nice steady growth. And our income just passed $2 million for the first time last year. Again, starting at about $50,000 when I first started studying marketing. And when I first started studying the internet, it was about $500,000. So I've been able to quadruple it by applying internet marketing. And of the $2 million that I received last year, I can tell you about 1.5 million is directly from internet referrals. All right, so there's 2 core skills that you have to master to succeed in internet marketing. One, you have to get visitors to your website, and there's usually 3 ways to do that. Free organic search, go into Google or Bing and typing in something and your website shows up. paid search, Google AdWords, Bing ads, Facebook ads, things like that, and social media, which we refer to as, we call it social media everything, but it's mostly Facebook, but there's also Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, etc. So the second skill is you have to convert people. You have to convert people from visiting your website to contacting you, and then you have to convince them once they contact you to make an appointment. Obviously, the internet can't do that part for you, but the internet can do the first two parts. Here's an example of a text message I received recently, how to make an appointment. So we'll talk about that as well. So before we get into some of the other stuff, we need to talk about Steve Jobs. This is the week, 10 years ago today, or this week, I guess it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, he introduced the iPhone. This tiny, underpowered little phone, and look how little it is in his hand if you're seeing the webcast. There were no apps, there was no video. It had a really, really slow internet connection. But it was the beginning of what's changed the world, and I believe has changed private practice marketing forever. And the move to mobile has happened probably faster than anybody ever expected, as we have these things now in our pockets that have gotten more powerful. The smartphone is the dominant digital device in 2017. Everyone has one, a powerful computer with the internet and social media and apps and contact right in their pockets. And the smaller screens present some challenges, but they also, as you'll see with my data, present some great opportunities to get private practice referrals. And my prediction is you're definitely going to find the smartphone is where you're going to get most of your referrals in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it's where I get most of mine today. And I want to show you exactly how I do that. All right, and so for many of us in 2017, over 60% of searches are happening on smartphones. Over 80% of social media interactions are happening on smartphones. And smartphones have the great advantage, they know where you're located, where the phone is located, and they have several ways to contact you. Obviously 3, telephone call, email, and texting is available right in the palm of someone's hand. We'll see how we can take advantage of that. So the downside of the smartphone, which I want to use as a framework for talking about everything else, is that we have reduced or fragmented attention. The attention spans on mobile devices are even shorter than on computers. And if you look at a lot of the data from analytics, you'll find that in many, many cases, your internet marketing message will frequently be seen for 30 seconds or less. So one of the challenges that we all face in private practice today is how do we craft a message that's emotionally engaging and is going to get someone's attention for more than 30 seconds. Stated another way, how do I drill down my years of training and experience into something that's not just some superficial fluff in under a minute? We'll talk about that. All right, so the first main thing I want to talk about with our talk today is lead generation, which is, of course, a sales term, which means how do you get potential clients even interested in hearing about your practice and your services. And so what's been one of the dominant ways to get referrals this way and leads for really since the internet and search engines really became popular in the mid to late 90s has been search engine optimization, or SEO. And for those of you not familiar with that term, it means getting found for free. Sometimes it's called organic search. It means getting found for free. Somebody goes to Google, types in psychotherapist in Chicago, your website shows up, and they click on your website, and then they call you and make an appointment. So that's SEO. The second way of getting visitors to your website is to pay for the privilege, where you see ads on the search page, either from Google, Bing, or Facebook. On Facebook, they have ads. On Google and Bing on the search engine. And then when someone clicks on the ad after searching with a keyword phrase, it takes them off of the search engine and puts them onto a specific page on your website, which is called the landing page. And that's pay-per-click advertising, which, as we'll discuss, is where Google gets 90% of their income. And the third way to get people to your website is social media. And what I'll be talking about today is my experience and belief, which is that social media gets probably more hype than it deserves as a lead generation strategy. It's certainly an interesting place to hang out, and there are people who get referrals from it. But I think you'll find that it's also one of the more challenging places, given the amount of distractions and what I would call very low signal to noise ratio. Okay, so let's start with SEO, a controversial area. In 2016, many experts basically said SEO is dead. Other people said it's not dead, but it's dying. So let's go over the facts. Search engine optimization, which has had a long history of success for people. Right now, there are fewer spaces available, and I'll just start with Google, which is the main player, of course, in the search engine game. There's fewer spaces available on page 1 of search than even last year. But if you go back 5 or 10 years, it's a dramatic difference. The number of spaces that Google's been making available for people to list a free website has just gone down dramatically over the last few years. And one of the problems is that these large directories like Psychology Today or Good Therapy or Yelp or Health Grades are dominating a lot of the top free positions because they've been around for a long time. They have very deep links into the search engines. They have a huge amount of content, and it's very hard to get above them on the free search. And so one of the things, Google rewards longevity of a website. So one of the other things is if you're a new kid on the block and you have a website that's only been around, for a year or two, it's very hard to compete in this space. 5 years ago, I could tell somebody, if I did SEO on your website, you pretty much guarantee you'll be on the top half of the first page quite a bit. But anybody who promises you that today is lying, and you should challenge them on it because it's just not true anymore. It's much more difficult to get on the top page, top of the page, as I'll show you some examples. And Google in particular is less interested and invested in helping you do that. So what does a search look like on Google here in 2017? Well, now they show 4 ads at the top of the page. They used to have 3 ads at the top of the page, and they used to have ads on the right column. Last year, they got rid of the right column, and they expanded the number of ads from 3 to 4. What they also have done, though, is they've made the ads larger by giving you, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, they've made the ads larger by giving you things called ad extensions. So the ads can be much taller, and the result of that is that it pushes the free organic listings further and further down the page as you have more ads and more ads that are larger. And you may notice that phrase from newspapers called above the fold, and I'm going to show you some data in a minute that proves that this above the fold concept is very true in internet marketing, where we have very short attention spans. And so as the organic listings get pushed further and further down the page, they get fewer and fewer clicks. So that's the top of the page. The middle of the page is business profiles, and Google will show 3 of these, and everyone should have one of these, as I'll talk about shortly. A free profile on Google. This is the last chance to get on there for free. The problem is they only show 3 of these listings in any metropolitan area. So there literally could be hundreds of people with Google profiles if you live in a major urban area, and Google will show 3. Now, last year, a year ago at this time, they showed 7. So we see a trend. More ads, less free listings. And then there's 3 ads at the bottom. Those are the ones that used to be on the right, now they're at the bottom, and they are almost never clicked on. Those statistics show that. And about half of conversions happen on the top half of the page. Half of the people that actually contact you and make an appointment happen above the fold in the top half of the page. About 70% of people won't scroll down past the first screen, according to the data. So that's partly what contributes to that. So what's the result of this? Well, the organic listings, the free listings, as I said, are being pushed further and further down the page, and many searches show just 1 or 2 individual therapist websites. When I first started doing internet marketing, you'd see 8 or 10 individual therapist websites, so it was pretty easy to get on the first page, and not that many people even had a website. So this is what I want everyone to do who's on this call, on this webcast, is to go to Google sometime in next week, type in your one of the top keywords that would relate to your area of specialization and your city. So type in psychotherapist San Francisco, marriage counselor Orlando, whatever it is. And I just want you to see, first of all, does your site show up? But secondly, how many individual therapist websites show up? How many even show up? So when you get that email next week that says, I can get you on the first page of Google for free, well, guess what? There's only, in many, many cases, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 that even have a chance on that first page because of all these other factors that I just discussed. So SEO is getting more difficult, and it's getting less predictable than it used to be. So that's just the reality. That's not somebody just saying, I hate SEO or I don't think it works. I'm just saying that's the data and that's the facts. And the other fact that's very important to understand is the further down the page your listing goes, the lower the click-through rate. And I have data to show you here. This was a study that was done over 15,000 searches. And what it shows is the click rate. So when you're on the top position, and remember the top position now is below the 4 ads and below the 3 business listings, so really number 8, you get about 18% of the clicks, so maybe 1 out of 5. If you're in the next position, you get 10%. If you're in the next position, you get 7. If you're in the 4th position, you get under 5. Okay, so let's just be real practical. If you're in the 4th position, you get 1 click out of every 20 times your site shows up. 1 out of 20. So if all these things are pushing your site down the page, and at best you might be getting 1 out of 20, and as you can see in this chart, the further you go down the page, it's like 1%. It's like 1 out of 100 or 2 out of 100. And then even if somebody clicks on your ad, on your free listing that takes them to your website, then your website has to convince them to contact you, and then you have to convince them to make an appointment. So the funnel is very, very narrow of how many searches it will take for you to get 1 new client who actually comes in your office from a free organic search. So again, I just want you to see the data and why I believe SEO is dying. I don't think it's dead, and I'm going to show you there's still some very good things you can do to help with it. Also, SEO works very good if you have a pretty obscure area of specialization. Obscure areas of specialization tend to do better because there's not as much competition, and you might have a much better chance of showing up on page 1. But if you're doing mainstream searches like counseling, therapy, psychotherapy, anxiety, depression, marriage counseling, eating disorders, the kind of mainstream kind of presenting problems, you're going to run into a lot of competition, and this is definitely going to take over. All right, so let me give you make this a little more practical. I just did a search on my computer for Los Angeles psychologist, and for those of you who can't see the detail, there's 4 ads at the top, like I said, and then there's 3 business listings with a map. So by the time we get below any of that stuff, we're already at the bottom half of the first page. And we have Psychology Today. We have Psychology Today. We have Psychology Today. And then we have Yelp. Okay, that's page one. Not one individual therapist listing. And I just did this randomly just to do a test. And then I looked on my phone, on my iPhone, and said, well, let's see, is it any better on a phone? Well, on a phone, 3 ads show up on the first page with the map, but it doesn't show any of the free listings underneath. On the second screen on mobile, we do see the 3 business listings, and then we start to see Psychology Today, Psychology Today. Okay, so now I'm down to the third screen on my phone looking for a psychologist, Good Therapy, Yelp, Health Grades, and finally one therapist. And then under that, Thumbtack. So how many times, if you do a search on your phone, whether by voice or typing in a search, how often do you go past page 3 or screen 3 on your phone? And that's, again, the challenge of SEO. So again, I just want to see people, see the reality. And again, hopefully in your city and with your area of specialization, it's different, but I just want everyone to really do this experiment for yourself on Google, because Google is, of course, the biggest player in free search. All right, but I think my reading of all the experts and the blogs and the podcasts I listen to is that, the message we're getting as internet marketers is, if you want to get in the first page, you have to pay to play. The days of free, just showing up for free are over, except in some minor rare occasions. And this is true for all the big players, Google, Bing, and Facebook. Microsoft Bing is the second biggest search engine. Well, actually, YouTube is, but in terms of pure search engines, Bing is second to Google, and then, of course, Facebook. But they're all doing the same thing. If you want to get a good promotional listing, you have to pay for it. And one of the factors that you have to be aware of, as I said before, Google makes 90% of its money from advertising. They're losing ad revenue to Facebook. And so they have to please their shareholders, right? They have to please their shareholders. How do they do that? The only way they're really a one-trick pony, a very successful one, but they get money from these ads. And so they're basically, my prediction, and again, I hope I'm wrong, but we now have 4 ads at the top. My prediction is 1 or 2 years from now, there'll be 6 ads at the top. And maybe someday the whole page will be ads. I don't know. I doubt that, but I'm almost positive that the number of ads is going to keep increasing. And therefore, again, SEO just gets more difficult. Now, so what does this all mean practically? And I want to go over some of the things you can do for SEO that I find still work. First of all, though, we all get these offers. I mean, I get probably 10 of these a week, usually from other countries, sometimes from the United States, where they say, hey, I can get you on the first page page 1 for Google for free, and just pay me a monthly fee, like $1,000 a month or $700 a month. And it's a scam. If you do the SEO correctly, and I'm going to show you the best parts of SEO, there's no need to keep doing it every month. The keywords don't change in our field. Will the word counseling be a high search keyword in 3 years? Will the word anxiety? Will the word couples therapy? Of course. Will the word compulsive overeating? These aren't going to change. We're not in politics or technology where things are constantly changing, or news sites. They need to update things all the time. But in our field, things are fairly stable. And occasionally, there'll be a new buzzword that becomes popular. But let me go over a couple of the SEO practices that I think are still very useful and can still help you show up on that first page, when space permits. The first thing is meta tags. There's 3 meta tags: the title, the description, and the keyword tag. You can ignore the keyword tag because Google does and Bing does. But the title tag is actually the most important thing you can do for free or for a very low fee if you have a web programmer to get organic listings. And you can have up to 70 characters. It's usually hidden in most browsers from the viewer, but it's associated with your domain name and tells Google and Bing what are the most important keywords to associate with my website domain name. And everybody should have a title tag on every page, and it should be at least 1 or 2 words different on every page. to highlight what is the, what are the top keyword phrases that highlight that page. But that's absolutely essential. And I can tell you from I've probably reviewed 300 therapist websites in the last 10 years. The most common title tag on the home page is the word home, which will probably not get you very many searches. So make sure that you have good keywords. Also, I don't recommend putting your own name on the title tag unless you're a best-selling author. And if you are, you're probably not on this call. So just put high search keywords. If you have some kind of special name of your business, like, I don't know, Northwood Counseling Associates, the word Northwood and the word Associates isn't going to do you any good, but it will do you good to say counseling and psychotherapy for anxiety and depression in Chicago. That would be a good title tag because it's got locations and it's got high search keywords. All right, so what else can you do? Inbound links. Google still rates the number of other websites that list your website as a resource highly. So they like the fact that if your site is listed on other sites, they think the information must be more valuable. So that's a good thing. They also like you to have more content on your site. So all things being equal, if you have 30 pages on your site and somebody else has 5, they're going to rank yours better. I mentioned before, you absolutely must have a free profile on Google. You just go to google.com/business. If you don't have that, fill it in as completely as you can. Photos, videos, reviews if you have any, and they'll verify it with a postcard. The other thing Google offers for free that's very valuable for SEO is what used to be called Webmaster Tools and is now called Google Search Console. It actually has a URL with Webmaster Tools still in it, but it'll give you a tremendous amount of information about how your site is performing in SEO for free, and they'll tell you any errors they're finding, any problems with mobile, and it's a fantastic amount of information for free. And then Apple, getting back to our buddy Steve Jobs, there's over 1 billion iOS devices in the world now. And if you want to show up, Apple doesn't have a search engine, but they do have Maps. And if you want to show up in the Apple ecosystem, you go to mapsconnect.apple.com and again, register a free profile with your business. Will never hurt to do that, and it will probably help. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the 600-pound gorilla, which is Google AdWords, where, as I said, they make most of their money. And they've tried desperately to generate other revenue streams, but still, to this day, 2017, 90%, 9 out of every $10 Google makes comes from these ads. So they are the leader in pay-per-click advertising. It has a very steep learning curve that I have in red here, which is designed to waste your money. They set up the settings by default. If you follow their easy to set up a campaign on your own, you will definitely waste at least 50% of your money and have no idea you're doing it just because that's the way they are. They have to make money from these ads. So they're kind of in this, they're kind of torn. They want you to succeed so you keep advertising, but they also want to skim 20 or 30% off the top. That'll waste your money. But the good thing is, if you learn how to do AdWords, it'll guarantee you to get a spot on this top 4 ads on top of the page. And a lot of people say to me, "Oh, well, nobody really clicks on those ads. No good clients. That's just for, that's just for bad clients." So I totally dispute that, and I'll show you, as my data will show you. But the other thing I wanted to say about the steep learning curve: please don't try to make a Google ad campaign on your own. Google will walk you through it on their own, but again, you're then trusting that they're going to set up correctly, and some of their advisors are very knowledgeable, but they don't know our field. And you can take a class, you can read, Perry Marshall has a good book on Google AdWords, it's like under $20. But I review a lot of, I have a service called AdWords TuneUp where I review therapist ad campaigns. And so far, the average, I've done about 60 of them. So far, the average savings from doing my review is $600 a month. So it just means without people, they're just wasting money without realizing it, because Google makes it seem easy, but it's very deceptive. Like I said, they need to make all their money from this, so they can do everything possible to make the money. So if you do use Google AdWords, a couple of tips. Last year, they came out with these much larger expanded text ads, and almost everybody's getting better click rates and higher conversions. So please use these if you're not. You can compare them to the old ads, but you'll see in almost all cases they'll perform better. Choose your location of your ads very carefully. Sometimes I see people either having a very narrow location or too large a location, but be realistic about how far will people drive to come to your office, and don't waste money on ads that are too far away. And make sure you use make ample use of negative keywords. Negative keywords are words that will suppress your ad. Words like free, affordable, low cost. I have about 380 negative keywords that I use that I've collected over the years. And they will really save you an incredible amount of money, but you really have to use them and use them wisely. And don't use, in most cases, there's some cases, okay, but in almost all cases, don't use your homepage as a landing page because it's too general. These ads work best when they're specific with a narrow focus on what somebody's looking for. And with keywords, don't use broad match keywords only. Broad match means people can put anything before or after the keyword. So if I say psychotherapy as my broad match keyword, I will pay for clicks for psychotherapy office for rent, psychotherapy jobs, psychotherapy graduate training, etc. So you don't want to use only broad match keywords. For those of you who understand the keyword matching options, the modified broad match that has the plus signs in between right now are performing better than phrase match or exact match. But the great thing about Google AdWords is you can test it and see which works better and gets a higher click rate and a higher conversion rate. The other thing is your ads must be in the top 4 for it to work, because as I said before, only 3 or 4% of anybody clicks on the ads at the bottom. So you have to find out if you're in the top 4 by going, again, if you understand the jargon of AdWords, you go under segment, top versus other, and you'll see how often you're in the top. But that's really crucial to find out. And also, they give you all these ad extensions that I mentioned before that make your ads larger. And there's 2 new ones that many people I review are not using. A lot of people are using the call, which is great because then you can get phone calls right from mobile. Site links, make sure they have the 2 text line descriptions. Location, so they can show up on the map. Now they have 2 new ones from last year. Call out, where you can just advertise in 25 characters a feature of your business, like you might say evening, weekends appointments, Blue Cross accepted, something like that. And then message extensions is just very new at the end of 2016, where you can put a texting number so people can text right from your ad to a text number. And lastly, I feel you should only run ads ideally when someone's answering the phone live, when you have your best chance of conversion. But don't run your ads 24 hours a day. In most cases, that's going to waste your money. And we want to conserve our money for the absolute optimal times when we're most likely to get somebody to make an initial appointment. Now, the other thing that's cool about Google AdWords is the call extension, as I mentioned. Google gets about 85% of the searches on smartphones and tablets. And so we want to take advantage of that, because they can call you right from the ad. If they click on your ad and it takes them to your website, then your website has to convince them to call you, right? But right there on the ad is a little button, it says call now. It's called the call extension. So it's much more seamless. So Google gives you a way that you can say, I'll pay more money to get a higher position on a mobile where there's only 3 ads, remember, at the top. I'll pay more money to make sure I'm at the top of that, just so I get more phone calls. And I want to show you my results from 2017. It's only, what's today, the 13th. I've only run my ads for 9 days because I don't run them on the weekends, and I didn't run it the first day or 2. So far, in just this year, this is just a screenshot from my AdWords page. I've run my ads for 9 days, and I've received 53 phone calls from potential clients. 53 phone calls from mobile call extensions, okay? And you can see, if you can read the fine print, it cost me $2,288. This doesn't include the emails and the text messages we also got. But just from these phone calls, we've scheduled 41 appointments. and out of the 57 we've scheduled since the beginning of the year. And so I just want you to see the power of this. When I said before, I'm getting most of my referrals from smartphones, this is what I'm talking about. If you take advantage of this, because a lot of people don't know how to do this, you bid higher on mobile, you have your call extension active, and you set up conversion tracking in Google AdWords so that they'll show you this kind of data. This is what can happen. So fantastic. All right. Microsoft Bing is basically a clone of Google AdWords. I don't want to say much about it, other than the fact that you only get, maybe 10 or 15% as many clicks as you get on Google, but you don't pay any money if they don't click on your ad. So I run mine, and I don't get a whole lot, but I get some from it. And there's still about 30% of searches are done on Bing, and a lot of people have Windows PCs. Hardly anybody has Windows phones. So that's going to probably die out over time, but in Android phones and iPhones, of course, mostly use Google. So, okay, let's talk about pay-per-click on Facebook. Very different. You're interrupting their socializing. It's much harder to engage people because they are socializing and you're interrupting them. With Google, they're looking. They have an intent and they have an agenda. I want to find information. I want to get help. On Facebook, they're doing their friend stuff. They're updating, their favorite political rant, and then your ad shows up, and then you interrupt that. So what's Facebook's strength is targeting. They have so much more data on people than anyone realizes, and they can certainly, you can create a very precise profile of who you want to see your ads, which Google can't do. By age, income, gender, where they live, what their profession is, what their net worth is, the age of their children, their political interests, their social interests, anything you can imagine, Facebook has that information. And the clicks are cheaper, often as low as 80 cents or $1, whereas Google, to get in the top 4 positions today, most people are paying between $5 and $7 a click. And almost all of the ads on Facebook are showing up on phones and just scrolling through your news feed. So the problem of that means, of course, no one's going to see your ad for maybe more than 2 or 3 seconds. So what works best is not an ad that says, I do psychotherapy in Atlanta, because that will just get ignored. But on Facebook, because it's a social medium, things like quizzes, find what are the top 5 signs that your marriage is in trouble. What are the top three ways to know you have a drinking problem. Things like that. Free reports, videos, and articles work better. You can't expect to just get somebody with an ad about your service and they're going to do it. It needs 2 or 3 steps. But you always want to get people off of Facebook and onto your website. The caveat to that, though, is a Facebook click on an ad to your website will tend to last 1/4 as long as a Google click in all my analytics studies from different campaigns. So it's harder, as I said, it's harder to get people engaged unless you're really hitting a hot button with some major issue in their life. And on Facebook, the picture, you're allowed to have a picture, which Google doesn't have. So the picture is important and the headline's important. Those are most important in terms of getting a higher conversion rate. Okay, now social media itself, the only platform that I think it's worth even trying to get clients from is Facebook. Facebook has the longest average time of any website in the United States. 50 minutes every day is what the average American spends on Facebook, by far the longest on any site. And they'll let you create a free business page, which everybody should do. It's just like a little mini website. Some people will search on Facebook for help, and then your page will show up, and it's just as good as a search on Google. So that's something everybody should do. It'll only take you less than an hour to create on Facebook. They also allow you to create these custom audiences, like I was saying, which are very targeted to exactly who you want to see your ad. And then you can create a relevant post on your business page and then only have the custom audience see it. One thing I feel strongly about is getting likes is a waste of time on Facebook. Likes are very, very low commitment thing. Giving someone your email address is a high commitment thing. Liking something on Facebook is a fairly mindless 1-second thing that people often forget about. I've known people to spend incredible amount of time and money to get like 5,000 likes on their page, and it got them almost nothing. So If you get them, okay. The other annoying thing about Facebook ads is you actually pay money if someone likes your ad, which seems ridiculous. The other annoying thing about Facebook is if you put a video on Facebook that shows up on your phone, the videos will start playing without sound automatically. And if it plays for more than 3 seconds, Facebook will charge you for a click, even though the person may have not heard anything or never have watched a second of it. So that's some of the stuff they're pulling to try to make more money. But like Google, who's reducing, free organic searches, Facebook is now demoting posts on the news feed that have any kind of sales intent. And again, pay to play is the message. Okay, so we've talked about how to get people to our sites. How about getting them to contact us? Okay, the key concept here is called the call to action, which is from advertising. What do you want me to do next? At least 70% of therapist websites leave this off completely. So tell the person what you want to do next. The mistake a lot of people make is saying, if you're ready to get started, contact me. But they don't say how or where or how, when. So don't say contact me, say contact me and put your phone number, put your email address, and put a text number. I always want people to do all three because of this move to mobile. And I keep saying this over and over again, mobile is killing it. Mobile is where everything's moving. And if you are one of the early adopters of really optimizing mobile in your community, you're going to get the lion's share of all those searches. But in terms of getting people to convert, nothing converts as well as a video, because a video can engage people with visual, auditory, and kinesthetic representational systems simultaneously. So nothing else that pales, compared to just a bunch of text. And you have to make your pages interesting visually. Like I see a lot of therapist websites, they have like 6 paragraphs of text. And people are lazy and they won't read that. Break it up with bullet items, with pictures, or ideally, if you can, as I said, with videos. And if you use texting, which I recommend highly you should, don't text people back, call them back. When I first started using texting 3 years ago, I texted them back. We converted 1 out of 16 to an appointment. Then we started calling them back, and now we're converting 3 out of 5 to an appointment. So obviously a huge difference. And nobody seems to mind that. This is another huge tip if you're not doing this. Make sure potential clients can contact you with one touch on the phone. Look at your website on your smartphone and make sure you can touch it. Touch email, phone, and text with one finger, and it will open each relevant app on your phone. It's a huge difference when you do this from when you don't have this. Because again, on mobile, people have short attention spans, are easily distracted by apps. And if it's not easy, they're not going to do it. They're not going to write it down and type it in. So you want to make it as easy as possible. So on my mobile version of my website, I put this right at the top. I have phone, text, and email at the very top of every screen. So I'm planning the suggestion, okay, you can contact us at any point. Just touch here, and you'll be able to send a text, an email, or a phone call. And that's worked out very well, as you can see from my data, even just this year. Okay, now let's move on to the last 2 topics. What are some of the trends to look forward to this year and beyond? The first thing is Google's making a big deal about wanting people to have secure websites. We all have financial websites for our banks that have this HTTPS. You'll see the little S in the address bar. And Google is making a big stink that they want everybody to have the secure website. And the rumors are that they're now starting to rank for it, meaning if you have the S, that they will rank you higher on the free organic listings. Although that doesn't seem, I haven't heard that verified by everybody. But that's just something to keep in mind, that 2017, I think, is going to be the crucial year where there's a tipping point where more sites have that than don't. If you do create a secure site, make sure you do what's called a redirect from your links, because otherwise all of your other links won't work. All of your inbound links that you've worked hard to build up won't work right if you don't have redirects. Secondly, website loading speed. Google is a fanatic about this. If your site loads in over 3 seconds, they're going to demote your site on the ranking. There's a whole bunch. If you just go to Google and search for website load test. A site called Pingdom, Pingdom, has a great free service for that. But you want to make sure it'll show you which parts of your site are loading slowly. You want to make sure that you're loading under 3 seconds. The other huge change that Google made just in October is what they call their mobile search index is now primary, not secondary. It's primary. So again, this whole move to mobile, Google's on top of it and saying, we now are starting to rank everybody. It used to be desktop is first, and then off of that, you'd have your mobile rankings. Well, now they're saying mobile is the primary one, and desktop is secondary. So again, look at your site, how it shows up on a mobile search on Android or iPhone, and see what you can do to make it readable, to make the navigation easy, and ultimately to get a higher rank on the page. The other trend that's come along in the last year or two is these sites that are called texting therapy, where you pay like $100 a month and you have a, quote, licensed therapist who you can text 24 hours a day. There was just a great investigative report on TheVerge.com, which is a technology site. I wish it was done by one of the by the NASW or the APA or ACA. But anyway, they did a great investigative report on all the ethical problems. But the reason I want to mention this is these sites are getting millions of dollars of support on Wall Street. They're getting lots of free publicity on the media because it's sexy to say, oh, this is so much better now. I can text my therapist. There's a huge problem. But they're competitors to ours. And you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing Google ads with these on them, and they're getting, they've got $10 million of funding. We can't compete with ads. So this is a real threat to those of us who do real therapy. So I just want people to be aware of it. Another trend, again, I'm kind of beating a dead horse. Organic listings will continue to shrink in 2017. The other big trend is voice search. Voice search is getting much more popular. It's getting more accurate and easier. It will approach 40% of searches by the end of this year. And so the question is, are keyword searches different if you're speaking versus typing, especially on mobile? And then you want to optimize your pages for those phrases instead of what you might be optimizing for typing searches. So that's, again, going to change some AdWords keywords as well as SEO meta tags. The other two things going on is Google Home and Amazon Alexa, or actually known as Echo, are bringing search into more homes. I have both these devices just to play around with them, and you can actually go on the Google Home and do a search, and they will say auditorially 3 listings. So again, try to, if you know someone who has this, do a search and see if you show up on one of the 3 listings. It also raises more privacy concerns because of the concerns that these things are on 24 hours a day, always listening to you. Virtual reality and augmented reality are getting a lot of hype and a lot of attention from CES and beyond. Don't worry about it. It's not going to have an effect on private practice for many years. It will have a nice effect clinically, though, on things like anxiety disorders, when you can actually simulate a lot of anxiety situations, fears, phobias in a safe setting. And I think that'll be a real exciting thing clinically that we can look forward to. Promoted pins is another thing Google just added at the end of 2016 on Google Maps. You can pay so that your little listing has a bigger star or circle than all the other ones. So that's going to become more popular this year. Video content is completely taking over the internet, so you're going to see more video in just about everywhere. And as Roy Huggins and I talked about on the webinar we did in December, big issues in the next presidency, which I guess is starting next week, privacy, encryption, and net neutrality are going to be big issues. And that may affect some of the communications that we all do with our clients, with each other. And we have to be sensitive to that as we go through this next year, because there's going to be more HIPAA concerns than before. Okay, and lastly, before I get to my Q&A, let's do my top 10 do's and don'ts. All right, what are the biggies? First of all, everybody should have free profiles on Google, Bing, Apple, and Facebook. Okay, those are no-brainers. They don't cost any money. They each take maybe 15 or 20 minutes, maybe an hour at the most, and they're going to really help you establish a footing in this digital age, and especially the mobile age. Okay, here's one of my pet peeves. Almost everybody's website on the home page in huge icons has Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter. Why would you, it takes all this effort to get people to your website. Don't invite them to leave and go to a party on Facebook. You'll never get them back. They'll never convert. There is an SEO benefit to having those links on your website. So what I do is I have them at the very bottom of a page in a very tiny, tiny little icon, which nobody ever sees, but they give me the SEO benefit. But don't prominently say, hey, now that you finally got to my site because of all this time and money I spent, why don't you leave and go to Facebook and look at some videos? Okay. Number 3, don't waste time on Twitter, Pinterest, or blogging in the service of getting clients. You may want to go those for other reasons. I love Twitter for other reasons. But don't expect to get any clients. You just won't, and I don't have time to go into it, but I've tested all these things out, and it's just not going to help you. Next thing, every page on your website should allow potential clients to contact you by phone, email, and text. Every page, and not 7 screens down, but at the top. Make it easy, make it seamless, make it comfortable for people to do that. The content of your home page should be almost all about the potential client. We talked before, how do we dumb down years of training and experience into a 30-second message? We talk about the client's needs and the problems in their language. We don't talk about where we went to school, how we practice therapy, or starting therapy might be the most difficult thing they ever do. That's a great way to get people to want to contact you. Talk about their needs and how you can help them and how you understand what it is they're dealing with and that you have experience dealing with it. Then you give them the call to action to contact you. Perfect. Okay. Also on your home page, the 2 problems I see, a lot of people who are therapists have a strong artistic bent, and they like to have these very, very tiny fonts because it's really cool looking and artistic. And it's also incredibly difficult to read. Okay. We want people to be able to read, especially people in their 40s or 50s who might have reading glasses. So avoid tiny fonts. What do you notice the trends are on Amazon, on Facebook, on Google, on Apple? It's large, thin letters, thin fonts with white backgrounds, right? That's the trend. Those are the people making the most money and having the most influence on what people expect to see. The other thing is, don't have a gigantic photo on the top of your home page of a tree or something like that, taking up the most valuable real estate above the fold. That should be reserved for your most important message, which is, I understand what you're dealing with, and I'm an expert and can help you with it. But don't spend 80% of above the fold on your home page on a big picture. There's no point to it. Number 7, use Google Analytics and monitor a tremendous amount of great information for free about how your site's performing. Put title tags, we talked about, up to 70 characters on every page. One of the best things you can do for SEO for almost no cost. Get colleagues to review your Google business profile. It's usually not ethical to get reviews from clients, but you can get reviews from colleagues, and it will definitely help you convert more on those free business listings when you have 10 reviews and the next person has 1. I said make videos, 2 to 3 minute videos. A good topic, frequently asked questions, upload to YouTube, and then embed it on your website. It can then show up in a search, and it will engage people with auditory, visual, and kinesthetic systems. And since I couldn't figure out how to do this in 10, 3 more things. Google yourself frequently. Studies show 89% of clients Google their therapist. Wouldn't you like to know what they're seeing? You might be surprised. So Google yourself on a regular basis. Also, review your Facebook privacy settings monthly. They like to change them and not tell you. And you might also not want to know what your clients are seeing about your latest frolic on the beach. The last one, people forget you're there. So email newsletters like Constant Contact and MailChimp are the most inexpensive, effective way that you can stay top of mind so that people know you're there, and it will help you get more clients. It will help you fill up workshops or lectures if you send these out, every couple of months with some valuable content. All right, and then last question. People always say, how do you keep up with all this stuff, and how can I keep up? I listen to 18 podcasts a week, and read 12 blogs on technology and business and marketing. And if the idea of doing that bores you to tears or makes you want to vomit, I have a 30-page monthly newsletter called Internet Marketing Insider, where I curate all the latest news for you, and I'll send you information about that in the follow-up email. So I want to mention that. And then I'm also offering for anybody who's on this call, if you want to do anything with internet marketing, a 10% discount by the end of the month. Again, I'll send you some stuff in the follow-up email, just with a coupon code with the word January. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. So I see we got a couple questions here. How do we create a secure site? You probably have to talk to your web host or talk to your website programmer if you want to create a secure site. How do you Google yourself if you have a common name? Said someone whose last name is Smith. Ah, okay. Well, that's a hard one. The only thing, or even worse, if you share a name with a pro sports figure, that's more difficult. Although, I knew somebody who was a friend of mine was named Jack Kennedy. He had a problem too. Obviously, that's more difficult. I think the only thing you can do is put your name and say psychotherapist and the city. So say Jack Kennedy, psychotherapy, Chicago, something like that. I think that's the best way to do it. Is it worth investing in Google AdWords if you don't have a large marketing budget? No, it's not. Clearly. If you have a $10 a day budget on Google AdWords, you're going to get 1 or 2 clicks a day, and you might get 1 or 2 clients a month, and you'll say, oh, this is a waste of time. But on the other hand, you can start small like that, and you say, hey, this seems to be working. And one technique I like to use is to say, let's make it $50 a day just for 3 days. Okay, we'll just do a little experiment. And suddenly you got 12 phone calls, and you say, hey, maybe this is worth investing more money, because sometimes you need to spend money to make money, and then the ball starts rolling and you're willing to do it. But if you only have $10 a day budget, and again, you don't have to do it 7 days a week. You can just do it Monday through Thursday when most of the clicks happen anyway. How do you feel about Yelp? I particularly don't like Yelp. I do know, especially in California, Yelp seems to be killing it. People are getting a lot of great, a number of referrals from Yelp. But you have to be careful about their ethics. You have to be careful about the reviews. And you have to be careful, I guess, until you get so many reviews, they may not place your ads as high up as somebody else. But I definitely have heard very good things about Yelp, mostly in California. In other places, I've heard horror stories. So I would say just be careful. It kind of depends on where you live. Let's see. Okay. Promoted pins. I don't know about this promoted pin thing, Roy. We'll have to see. I'll test it out and let you know. Okay, it looks like a couple people have risen their hand on the Q&A. So let me go over there. All right. Facebook ads. Yes. What about them, Mike? Okay. Well, I think I covered them. If I change my address on my website, does that hurt my Google ranking on the first page? If you change your physical address, Sid, no. No, it won't hurt your ranking. Is it good to pay MOZ Local to update a change of address? Yes, MOZ Local, by the way, is a really good service for under $100 a year to place your website on a whole bunch of different directories and get inbound links and listings and things like that. And they will also show you where you are listed currently and where you're not. Thumbtack, yes. I've heard very good things about Thumbtack, Sid, and even in the Bay Area. So yes, try out Thumbtack. You have to respond quickly. It's not that expensive, and you will definitely get inquiries from people searching. They show up pretty well in search engines. So Thumbtack is a yes to try out. Right now, if somebody searches for Jungian therapy, comes up on page 1. I'm about to redesign to make it mobile responsive. Will this affect my, and then I don't know the rest. My website. Oh, I see. Okay, if you're redesigning your website in WordPress, make sure you use the same URL. Don't change the website domain name, and make sure you redirect all the pages from the old site. If they have, like the old site might have HTML at the end of the page, and they don't have that usually on WordPress, and then you should be okay again. Is it best to use a virtual number since solicitors are always on the prowl? And this was by an anonymous person who's maybe a little paranoid. I don't think so. I have a regular number. I mean, you get a few crank calls. Mobile website, what platform do you recommend? I mean, you should use the same platform. You don't want to have two different sites. You want to have a responsive design which automatically reformats based on the size of your screen. Thumbtack has told me I only get clients with client testimonials. That's not true. I've done it and it's not true. Can you talk about HIPAA? No, I can't, but I will redirect you to Person-Centered Tech, Roy Huggins, who's on here. You're welcome, Roy, who's really the expert. I'm nowhere near an expert. I always ask him for that kind of stuff. How do you create a profile on Apple? Mapsconnect.apple.com, and it'll be in the link you'll get that you can just click on. Let's see. And how do you convert clients through Facebook? Well, like I said, you're not going to get them just through saying I do therapy. You got to have a 2 or 3 step process where you interest them with a quiz, with a report, with a video, and at the end of those things, you then say, you know, give me your email address, and then I'll analyze the results of your quiz, or I'll give you more information about the service. That's kind of the best way to do it. Is there any sources of research on therapy-oriented searches? Specifics of therapy-oriented searches versus general. I mean, the kind of searches, Rob, find a therapist, are very popular. And by the way, key phrase is near me in your SEO and your Google AdWords keywords. Always say, you know, counseling, New York near me. Counseling, if you put the phrase near me, you'll get a lot more clicks. A lot of people use that. What about paying Yelp for money, ads, clicks, or enhanced listings? Yes, again, if you're going to use Yelp, everybody I've talked to who uses it and gets a lot of referrals says they pay for the ads and it works very well. Is it okay to have 5 URLs, or is one better? Well, if you want to maintain 5, Fanya, I guess you can do that. One concept is to have mini websites, and mini websites all redirect to the same main site, but it gives you 5 different ways for SEO to kind of link back to your main site. And I think these, let's see, I think that's all the questions. Okay, cool. All right. Well, hope this was helpful. Looks like top of the hour, people might have clients. So I will, as I said, I will post this on an email you'll get. And if you have any questions or follow-up, just let me know. And I wish you all the best of luck, success, health, happiness, and 2017, get a lot of referrals from the internet. As I used to say on Saturday Night Live, the internet's been very good to me. And I hope it's good for you too. Bye, everybody.